Welcome back to the DeVory Darkins show. And in today's episode, we're talking about the president doing what he promised for the American people by hitting a record high in deportations so far this year. And you already know there are reactions from both sides of the aisle to that. And this entire situation regarding the White House ballroom, you'd think it'd be a non-story. But the amount of attention it's been getting, especially today, we want to talk about it because, again, it demonstrates how Democrats focus on the wrong things, especially Gavin Newsom, because he had an interesting reaction as well. But more importantly, giving you guys the facts to it all. And we'll probably, if we have time, get to other stories as well. But hey, if you guys are joining us for the very first time, we go live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We also upload two separate rapid updates every single day to keep you informed. This is common sense commentary for uncommon times. There's not a lot of spin here. I'm not really trying to make you think the way that I do. I don't try to tell you what to think. I just want to present to you what's happening in the media, what's happening with these stories, and you can make up your own mind. And definitely put your thoughts as we go through this show today in the chat. And lastly, if you guys are getting value during this time whatsoever and you haven't subscribed, whether that is on Rumble or YouTube, please do so. Okay, so first story, as I said earlier, is about this ballroom. And the first thing I want to encourage you guys to do right now as I play this clip is to pay attention to the language they're using and how they are reporting this story. It's obviously biased. It's Trump derangement at the highest level. It's not even being reported fairly, and they leave out key details that we will get to here in a minute. Let's go ahead and play that now for everybody.
The East Wing of the White House, like you have never seen it before, a lot of it in rubble this morning. The building, which houses the First Lady's offices, is undergoing partial renovations to make room for President Trump's new $200 million plus ballroom. First constructed in 1902, the East Wing has seen few small-scale renovations over the years, but nothing like this, where a big chunk of it was just knocked down. CNN's Elena Treen at the White House with the latest on this. And again, just in terms of reaction to people who've seen the White House for years, it was jarring to see the pictures of part of the White House literally coming down.
No, absolutely. I mean, clearly construction is underway, but we have seen, excavators ripping down part of the East Wing, one building kind of one machine tearing into the building to accommodate this massive structure that the president wants to add to the White House. Now, of course, we know that the president, this is a project that he has talked about. He said that he was going to be, finding financing for and whatever else. But this really fulfills a 15-year ambition of Donald Trump's. He actually had first said he felt like one belonged there ever since former President Barack Obama was in the White House. Now, this structure, you said it, but it's going to be roughly $200 to $250 million to create. The president has been very clear that this is going to be created with private or financed by private donors, not taxpayer money. But it's going to be some 90,000 square feet that they are adding onto this.
So how much will this ballroom cost? Okay, let's do a critical thinking exercise. Okay, if you guys already know the answer, just put it in the chat. I'm going to tell you the amount of it right now. According to what's been reported out there, the total cost is coming in around $250 million. Now, the interesting thing, as I asked that question, let's see how many of you guys got it right. Who's funding the $250 million? Okay, well, according to reports and the president himself, he's funding it through private donors, not taxpayers. So keep that in your mind as we go through this story. So CNN decides to lead with a story about the White House ballroom where, one, every president has done something to modify the White House. And this isn't the biggest modification ever, just so you guys understand. I mean, we're talking about a White House that was blown up at one point in time, and they had to rebuild the whole thing. But fine, let's go with their thinking. Secondly, it's privately funded, so there's that. And third, what he's doing totally makes sense. I mean, the ballroom should be expanded. It should obviously have more room for more people. I mean, I think that makes sense to me. But again, they have Trump derangement syndrome, so they have to respond. All right, a couple more details, but let's listen to more of this story.
It's going to be triple the size, we're told, of the East Room. That's really where a lot of the state dinners and other events are held at the White House. The president argues this is needed because he believes there needs to be more space, have more capacity for guests. Now, one thing that's also come up in all of this over the last 24 hours is there's a lot of White House and Trump administration staff reacting to this as well. The Treasury building, which is on just the opposite side behind me, on the other side of the White House, closer to the East Wing. That is where most of this construction is happening. A lot of people have been taking pictures and videos of this. And then Treasury sent out an email, John, yesterday, essentially asking people to refrain from taking photos, of sharing photos and videos of this construction. One Treasury spokesperson, though, told me essentially that this is a national security issue, and they said in a statement that carelessly shared photographs of the White House complex during this process could potentially reveal sensitive items. All to say, this construction is obviously going to be taking place for a long time and adds to a lot of the other transformations we know Trump has been doing, like gilding the Oval Office, adding those photos into the Rose Garden, paving over the Rose Garden.
Okay, so let's just address what she said there at the end. So the president has clearly, put his own spin on the Oval Office, as you guys may have seen in photos and videos of, he has 24 karat gold things on the wall or whatever, which I don't care because every president that comes in modifies the Oval Office to their liking. Can we just stop for a minute? I know a lot of people out there would love to talk about something else, but this is what they're talking about, okay? So we're going to have a conversation about it. Now, let me give you guys a little history here. Harry S. Truman, in 1948, had the biggest renovation to the White House in history. The entire White House was gutted down to its studs, and they rebuilt the whole thing, okay? They installed new steel framing, new foundation, new plumbing, new electrical and heating systems, etc. And for my financial buffs out there, you know how much it costed back then for them to gut the White House in that way? $5.7 million. Then we moved to Ronald Reagan, who renovated the White House himself as well, replaced the entire roof, added office wings, structural repairs, and security upgrades, and that came in at $44.6 million. Okay, now this is going to cost $250 million, so there's inflation for you. But he is just adding a ballroom expansion, so he's just expanding. But they make it sound like what he's doing is ruining the White House, which I find to be a complete joke, okay? So let's go to something very entertaining for most people out there, and that is MSNBC and their meltdown over what's happened. I want you to hear it in their voice. It's almost as if their heart is broken or somebody did something terrible to them. Listen to this.
Being obliterated as Donald Trump, who promised that he was not going to take a wrecking ball to the existing structure, has taking a wrecking ball to existing structure. I got to say, Mick, it really is. It is hard to watch that, and it's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House and take a wrecking ball to an existing structure so historic. That is what's happening. It'd be one thing if you were building on or you were doing things inside, but to take literally a wrecking ball to the White House, it's grotesque. Just grotesque.
Yeah, and this after the Rose Garden, and I guess the patio that they have put in, which you could argue, but this
far different.
Is painful. I mean, this is historic structure.
It's history being torn to shreds. And again, is everybody? I mean, so if somebody wants to go into the White House, the next person wants to just knock down all the walls and turn it into a disco. Congress can't do anything. I mean, seriously, you're destroying like one of the most historic structures on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, they make it sound like he tore down the entire White House, and that's not what's happening. I mean, anybody who's in construction understands that, sometimes you have to tear down the walls. Sometimes you have to modify it. So, I mean, I don't even have to explain it for the intelligent people out there. This is really a nothing burger. And the fact that it's privately funded tells you everything you need to know. But this is who we are dealing with right now in mainstream media. Now, in case you guys don't know this, the current East Room comes in at 3,000 square feet, and he's going to expand it to 9,000 square feet. So think about the future events or celebrations they could do in that ballroom that would be able to invite more people. It just kind of makes sense to me. And listen, again, the fact that it's privately funded ends the conversation entirely. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I guess the only thing that could be wrong with it is donors are putting up the money, and we already know the only thing that's really wrong with politics today is that the donors run everything, and politicians are slave to the money. Politicians are slave to their donors. So you could talk about that. I mean, that would be a more credible criticism of this than saying that he's taking a wrecking ball to the White House and we can't believe someone's doing this to this historic building, etc. Okay. Yeah, these people are delusional. Not as delusional as Gavin Newsom, which I find to be really interesting because according to him, he thinks that taxpayers are actually putting up the money for this. And we know that is so far from the truth. And he doesn't care about the facts, that is. And so let me go ahead and just show it to you here, what he is saying about all of this. There we go. Okay. Ripping apart the White House, just like he's ripping apart the Constitution. And of course, what they do is they get all dramatic and they show the photos to get that emotional response from people who don't think for themselves, of course. And when I look at this, I'm like, oh, that's good. So they're getting to work. That's great. That's what we want to see. It's interesting because this is like a life lesson, if you guys understand the analogy here. Sometimes if you're going to build something new in your life, a new habit, a new chapter, a new lifestyle, you got to rip the existing stuff down. You got to tear it apart. Anybody who owns real estate knows this is what you normally do. You got the place, renovate it, and now it's worth more money. But again, common sense is not common for people on the left. And just for good measure, because I like to bring the facts, why don't we show you guys this video, which really ruins the entire conversation for Gavin Newsom regarding his problem with this renovation. Maybe he should focus on how much money was spent on the Capitol building in Sacramento. Take a look at this, guys.
Why will a new office building for California lawmakers cost as much as an NFL stadium? That's a question we've been asking California's legislative leaders overseeing the Capitol Annex project. Live Copter 3 flew over, getting this exclusive look at the progress crews have made. The $1.1 billion project is supposed to cover costs for the office building, parking garage, and a new visitor center.
But it will also include private hallways for lawmakers that allow them to avoid the public and avoid us, the media. KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala has been digging into this plan and has an update.
This new office building in Sacramento is going to be one of the most expensive buildings in the United States. And yes, California taxpayers are footing the bill. Even though the lawsuits against it have been over, the California legislature, which is in charge of it, continues to keep details in the dark. Steel beams are up and construction is underway on the Capitol Annex project. The $1.1 billion construction and counting will eventually house the offices of lawmakers, the governor, and lieutenant governor. It'll cost about as much as Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara and more than the Golden One Center in Sacramento. But we still don't know why or how the money is being spent.
Motion passes.
The legislature's Joint Rules Committee overseeing the project still won't give a public update, even though lawsuits against it have been over for 6 months. No one with Joint Rules would do an interview with us on Monday, but officials confirmed there are now no plans to construct the visitor center on the west side of the historic Capitol. But even without that part, they said the budget for the project overall won't change. Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
Dick Cowan is the ex-chairman of the Historic State Capitol Commission and is part of the group that sued over the project.
Among the many questions we have is, what's the project going to cost now? Has it continued to rise as it did over the last years? When will the project be complete? They have all
Never.
that information, probably in a monthly report they receive from the builders, the designers, and the management team.
But information has been tough to get. As we reported last year, more than 2,000 people involved in the project signed non-disclosure agreements, legally requiring some lawmakers, government officials, and others to keep quiet about what's going on.
Okay, there's a lot I want to say about all this, guys, but before I do, I want you guys to hear this message from one of our sponsors of today's live show. All right, now here's a very serious question. Do you owe money when it comes to back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Did you forget to file for the extension? The October 15 deadline is fast approaching. And if you haven't done anything, the IRS could target you. What does that look like exactly? Well, they could garnish your wages, freeze your bank account, even seize your property. But help is available if you reach out to Tax Network USA, which is a nationwide firm responsible, by the way, for saving over $1 billion in tax debt for everyday Americans. They filed hundreds of thousands of tax returns, reducing people's tax burden, and they probably could help you too. And that's why I say don't wait. Go to tnusa.com/DeVory or call 1-800-958-1000. Speak to a consultant. It's 100% free, by the way. This could save you thousands of dollars, especially if you feel like you may or maybe you don't have a tax burden. But speak to the experts. Again, that is tnusa.com/DeVory or call 1-800-958-1000. Wow. Okay, so let's get back to California's $1.1 billion Capitol building annex project, which is also an expansion. So let me get this straight. The president is spending $250 million of his own money, or the donors' money, okay, to expand a ballroom that would obviously help the media, obviously help donors, right? And allow more people to obviously enjoy the White House, okay? And at the same time, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, thinks it's smart to go on social media and criticize the president when maybe he should be taking care of his own house, which comes in at $1.1 billion. They're creating private spaces, private hallways, private offices that obviously media will not be able to access. And there was supposed to be a media room. They scrapped that. And they've been sued multitude of times. So we are not the same, right? I think you guys can agree to that. Now, let me give you some more numbers as I continue to hammer this home. The original estimate for that Capitol building in California was $543 million. It's currently at $1.2 billion as of today. This price rivals even NFL stadium level renovations. It's unclear the funding source transparency, how much money is actually going to it, where the money's particularly coming from. They do know the taxpayers are funding it, and there are zero public oversight. And the fact that the staff and contractors had to sign an NDA, I think that tells you everything you need to know. So I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. But none of these facts obviously make it to mainstream media or cable news, especially on these daytime talk shows that is all about bashing the president. So here is Karine Jean-Pierre, who looks like a new person, by the way. I mean, she just as a side note, she's almost unrecognizable. But anyway, she took a moment to bash the ballroom. Take a listen.
So the People's House is basically being sold to the highest bidder. Yeah. It is corruption at its core. And I heard someone say this when I was backstage. It could not be, there's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now in this country than watching Donald Trump take a wrecking ball to the White House.
Yeah. It's kind of obvious. Yeah.
It's too obvious. It's like you couldn't make that up.
Yeah.
When I saw the image yesterday, I was like, this is not real.
But why did they let him get away with it? He has all of these people who just let him get away with whatever he wants to do.
That's what he's been doing for the last 9-10 months. Like the powers that are in the DC are not standing up. Yeah. They're acting as if they're powerless, which is part of the book, Independence. Like, no, you all have power. Yeah. You all have power. Do something with it.
Yeah. Use it. And they're not using it.
No, they're not.
Do something with it. I feel dumb when I watch these people, you know? Sometimes we just refuse to show clips from The View because it's truly low IQ. I know there may be some people out there that get offended when those words are used, but quite frankly, it's exactly what's happening. These women on that show deliver low IQ opinions about what's happening in our country politically. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It doesn't mean that people are wrong when they call your opinion low IQ. And at some level, it's almost as if they do it intentionally. And you know what's fascinating is they say Trump supporters are low IQ, not educated. They don't know anything. They just do whatever the president says. Well, I would argue what we just heard is truly low IQ. How are they allowing him to get away with doing this? He's the president of the United States. He's not getting away with anything, just like President Biden wasn't getting away with anything when he pardoned his family. What is he getting away with? It's within his presidential authority. And again, this is, the mindset that they've taken on and wrapped themselves in. Now, why don't we go to your guys' chats? Because I had another clip from The View, but I don't want to make us feel any dumber than already watching that. I want to check in with you guys. Do you see the hypocrisy? Do you see how California taxpayers are spending $1.1 billion and it's donors who are spending $250 million on this ballroom? And you know what's fascinating? Which one looks like it's going to be finished first? The ballroom or the Capitol building in California? I think that might be an interesting question to also get your guys' reaction to in the chat there for us. Okay, let's head over to Rumble first. See what you guys have to say about it all. Okay. Let's see here. I put money on the ballroom. Yeah, I know, right? I agree. Let's see here. Look, if Trump got universal health care and DC statehood, they would oppose it. Exactly. I totally agree. Extremely low IQ. Yep. And we're trying to do something about this whenever this is. Yep, it's a lot of talk, guys. That's all they do is they talk, but they're never really doing anything. It's interesting. Do you guys ever notice how, they complain about all this oppression? They complain about all this fascism, right? They complain that the president is violating the U.S. Constitution, but when you ask them for a concrete example of that, they can't give you one. Why is that? Because it doesn't exist. They just make up stuff. Okay. Let's see here. The White House definitely needs a ballroom. Don't give these dim tards air. Just focus on what we care about. Exactly. Exactly. Budget American Psycho Newscom. He does look like the guy in American Psycho, Christian Bale, no question. Yeah. 250 million. Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that. Okay. Okay, that's fair. Tunnels are expensive. 1.7 miles of tunnel for the boring company, and it costs like $600 million, but it's all privately funded. 65 years ago, Sacramento was a small town about the size of Stockton. All the money goes to Sacramento and Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. When I served in the military, anybody, and you guys can put this in the chat if you can relate, which I know you can. There's this concept called, most soldiers, they don't want to be close to the flagpole is what we would call it. Flagpole means the closer you get to headquarters, the more politics, the more crazy they are about the rules and regulations. It's just a crap show, okay? And it gets away from why you join the military. But there's a paradox there. See, the closer you get to the flagpole, the more you get to enjoy certain amenities that the farther you are away from the flagpole, you will not be able to experience those same amenities. What do I mean? Well, case in point. If you work in Sacramento, you're working in a castle, okay? A building with perfect AC and heating and security, and they spend so much money on headquarters. But when you go away from headquarters into other government buildings in other smaller cities, it's as if they built that building once and never renovated it. They have buildings that don't have AC, or they don't have heating, or the toilet's still broken, or the maintenance only comes once a year. It's fascinating. I've seen this firsthand. And you know, it's an interesting paradox in my opinion. So I guess you're going to have to take what you can get when you serve in government or in the military. I've always been the guy where I'm good. I don't want to work at headquarters. I don't care how nice the building is. It's just the politics isn't worth it. Okay. All right. Let's check out my crew on YouTube. Deb Longo says Trump tariffs brought in 17 to 20 trillion in less than a year. 87 billion of us voted to make our country respected again. Can you explain tariffs, as I have people that question me on that a lot? Yeah, so again, tariffs is simple as 1, 2, 3. Meaning, if you're going to export your product into the United States of America, this is how much it's going to cost you. Now, who's going to pay that cost? First up is the exporter themselves. They'll pay it. And if they don't pay it, the second option is the importer will pay it. That doesn't mean the customer will pay it. Because, and why do I say that? There's a difference between cost of goods sold and what's actually being, and the price you're selling the product at. And depending on your industry, you may not have the ability to raise the price right now because you've already raised the price due to inflation over the last 5 years because of COVID. It's like, how much more expensive can you make something? There's a limit to that called supply and demand. If you keep raising your price, the demand's going to drop. Okay, that's just the way that it works. And so that's how simple I can make tariffs. Now, some people say they are for a free market. Some people say they're not. And it depends on the context of what you are talking about. If we're using tariffs to bring back jobs here stateside and jobs that would have continued to go overseas, like chip manufacturing, AI, energy, things like that, things that these industries that are newer, that we're spending a lot of money on and investing. And I'm telling you guys right now, the energy market, okay, so these are companies where their sole purpose is to help the United States of America produce the amount of energy that is required for the future. I mean, we're already behind. The energy that we will need for just AI alone, like in the next 20 years, we don't have that energy today. So that industry is going to explode, for the record, for my investors out there. At any rate, it makes sense for the president to have tariffs because we should be bringing those jobs here and not letting them continue to slip away. Now, are you going to be able to save jobs when it comes to maybe car manufacturing? Probably not. I mean, and if he can, it's not going to happen now. That's going to take some time. And time is actually against the president. I would argue his biggest enemy is time because you only serve, for him, he's only going to be in the White House for 3 years at this point. So that's his biggest enemy, so to speak. And we'll see what happens in the midterms because obviously that could slow things down as well. But when you have a president who has signed 210 executive orders, that means he's going to try to figure it out and make something happen. So there's really a two-part conversation to tariffs. Again, well, let me add the third part, which is addressing China. So China is kind of like the analogy of Democrats and their woke policies. It's little by little, a brick at a time, chip by chip, year by year, policy by policy that has got us to where we are today. And the president cannot just erase all that tomorrow night. The amount of influence and power and control China has been able to gain over time is truly significant. The president trying to make a dent into that is going to ruffle some feathers, no question. But at least he's doing something. He's trying to address it. I think there's more he can do. I think he should just go all in on tariffs against China. I think he should cut them off. And it will hurt a lot of people in America. It will hurt a lot of businesses. And I understand that. But if we're looking for radical change and we're looking to get, away from the power of China, which we saw in COVID, I mean, they don't need to go to war with us. All they have to do is cut off our supply chain and we're finished. Most Americans don't even know how to respond to that. If stuff stops, if stuff and supplies, materials stop coming from China, a lot of people out there are screwed. They don't know how to figure that out. So if what he's doing is going to help us, mitigate that, I think it's a great thing. I don't think he's doing enough on that. Again, I'm a radical in this position. I say go all in on China. But again, that's just me. I'm not a trade expert. All right. Super chat from James. Thank you so much. And we have a big one from Stephanie, $50. Did California ever finish the train project? No, and they probably never will. They probably never will. Yeah, so some of you guys know we're from California, my wife and I, and we moved from California to Texas. And they had a highway in California that connects, to make it simple for people who don't get it. So you really have four parts of California. You have Northern California, which is Sacramento, San Francisco, Redding. You have the Central Coast, which is what you see on movies and TV shows where they want to show you the good part of California, right? These coastal cities. Then you have Southern California, which is Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego. And then you have something called the Central Valley. Central Valley is where all of the produce is grown, a lot of cattle, a lot of ag. It's the largest source of all of that for America. And the bottom line is that's where most of the Republicans live. Most conservatives live there. That's where it's red. That's where they voted for Trump. Bottom line is, if you want to connect the Central Valley to the coastal cities, which are woke, by the way, you got to take this highway that crosses over. This is really crazy. This highway has been having the construction on this highway has been still today. They're still working on this highway. They've been working on it longer than I've been alive. It's insanity. But that's the way California is. They have these construction projects on the highway, the train, these bridges. I mean, if it's something public facing, transportation wise, it's going to take a lifetime for them to finish it. And that's what we call corruption at its highest level. Okay. Yeah, we haven't talked about the $40 billion to Argentina, if that is the correct number. Especially when it flies in the face of the farmers who are speaking out about what's happening to them. I think there's more to develop there, and we might actually get into it tomorrow as a note. But yeah, that is an issue for the president, no question. Okay, so question for you, and then we'll move on to the next story here. Super chat from Femi. So question for you, why are black people screaming at Stephen A. Smith when Obama is campaigning against a black woman that is running to set a record as the first black female governor? Well, people are screaming at Stephen A. Smith because he criticized Jasmine Ghetto Crockett, and everything he said, I'd say the same thing. She's low IQ. Well, let's just say this. I don't believe she was raised to be low IQ. If you look into her history and how she grew up, I don't think she's actually low IQ. I think she has made a conscious decision to appear as low IQ because she thinks that's what's going to get her votes. That's what's going to get her money. That's what's going to get her clout within her own party. She's speaking the language of what the party will respond to. That's what's happening. And she made a conscious choice to do that. That's not really who she is. That's why I say most of these politicians, they're fake as you can be. And that's what makes President Trump stand out. That's what makes certain politicians stand out. What you see is exactly what you get. That's not who she is behind closed doors. Let's just be honest about it. Anyways, he criticized her, and then it led to Bakari Sellers, who is a race hustler himself, criticizing Stephen A. Smith, telling him nobody cares about his opinion. And then Stephen A. Smith basically dropped the hammer on Bakari Sellers by saying, listen, if I wanted to, CNN would give me a show before they would ever give you a show. CNN will pay me more money than they would ever pay you. And that was pretty much the end of it. I mean, Stephen A. Smith is getting paid, $40 million from ESPN. You may think his opinions are surface level. You may think he doesn't know what he's talking about, but you cannot argue with the results. He's in the media industry. He's up there as far as money is concerned. So, that's something you just can't argue with. And I guess that's what Democrats wanted to do. And as a black man, whenever you speak out against the establishment, especially the plantation, also known as Democrats, They always come for you. They say you're a sellout. They say you're this, you're that. You're only doing it because of, you're seeking approval. We talked about it yesterday. No, listen, if you are a black man and you are a conservative, you are not that way because you seek approval. You're that way because you don't seek approval. If you wanted approval, you would be a Democrat because that's what they're about. So it's interesting. All right. Appreciate the comments. Live 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, guys, bringing you common sense commentary if you're just joining us. We talked about the ballroom. Again, it's privately funded for good reason, $250 million. Makes sense to me. Expand it. Sounds good. Isn't the biggest renovation the White House has seen. As we know, Harry S. Truman has that record. Also, Gavin Newsom, we showed you the facts around that. His Capitol building, it comes in at $1.1 billion, and it's not privately funded. The taxpayers are paying for that. So that's the bottom line to that story. And now we go to the next one, which is about, like I told you, the President Trump is continuing to get wins. And here is another one. Let's take a listen to that.
Very interesting. And deportation numbers hitting record highs since President Trump's return to office. His administration booting more than 515,000 illegal migrants so far. 1.6 million illegals have left the country on their own, with immigration agents arresting 485,000. DHS saying that Trump is set to shatter the U.S. deportation record by the end of 2025.
Wow. So he's gonna shatter the deportation record by the end of this year. And what he's doing is much more difficult than Obama did, because remember, Barack Obama, the deporter-in-chief, the bomber-in-chief, right? This guy deported people at the border. There's a difference, okay? He didn't have to go into neighborhoods. He didn't have to go into local jails. He didn't have to do any of that. They caught them at the border, and then they kicked them out. The president actually has to go into America and get these people. And he's doing it with a heavy resistance, right? Sanctuary city policies. Okay, let's hear this other clip about this accomplishment from the president. This is on Fox Business, actually. And here's what they had to say about it.
Take a look at this. More than 515,000 illegal migrants have been deported since Trump's inauguration. 1.6 million have voluntarily self-deported. Another 485,000 have been arrested. Molly Hemingway with me this morning. This is exactly what Trump promised on the campaign trail. I simply didn't realize, Molly, that the numbers were so big so fast. What say you?
Well, they are big, but it is also worth remembering that under the Biden administration, each year, 2 to 3 million people were coming here illegally. And so they're good numbers, but it's still only a dent in what has been done to the country because of having an open border during the Biden administration. But yes, it's a good start.
Yeah, it is a dent. I mean, if you think 15 million, they're at 1.5 million or 2. Well, I think it's 2 million, actually, if we add up both those numbers. So 2 out of the 15, which is a good estimate, I believe. Some people say 10, some people say 12, some people say 20, and some people even said 30. Let's go with 15. So 2 out of the 15, if you say by the end of this year, they're able to get to 2.5 over the course of 4 years. If you average that out, we're looking at maybe 10 million. I mean, if they keep up this pace. And so, 10 million out of the 15 million, that's not bad. I mean, that's better than what obviously Joe Biden did. I mean, and this is a crisis on our hands, no question about it. And so I definitely commend the president for the hard work, and continue to criticize Democrats for trying to stop him from doing what he promised, and ultimately what 77 million people voted for, right? I think that is important to know. All right, now before we get to what the Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass had to say, I want to play you guys this message from our other sponsor of today's show. Take a listen. All right, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but this is a huge announcement. So Trump Media Group partnered with Crypto.com in a $6.4 billion deal. Why is this so important? Well, in case you didn't know, I have a Crypto.com account, and I invested in the Trump meme coin earlier this year, and I was successful, okay? And so when I heard about this news of Trump Media Group partnering with Crypto.com to establish the first American crypto treasury, I knew I had to be somewhat involved and figure out more information and then share it with you guys. See, you don't have to technically be an expert when it comes to crypto to participate in things like this. You just have to be aware And you should probably have an account with crypto.com, because understand something. What continues to happen to the American dollar, you know, and I know it. And I truly believe that Bitcoin is the future in some way, shape, or form, including crypto in general. So head over to crypto.com, be a part of this movement, this historic change, and how this administration is backing the power of crypto. Again, head over to crypto.com today.
In addition to undocumented individuals being detained, we also know that legal residents, people who were attending court hearings, were detained. And we now know that there is evidence of over 170 U.S. citizens who have been detained. And it's important that we say today that what is happening to undocumented immigrants is also happening to U.S. citizens, which means that this can happen to anyone, to all of us at any period of time.
Hyperbole. Okay, so let's just dissect this for the millionth time. And for my law enforcement officers out there, if you're still one or you are a former one, definitely thank you for your service, right? Why don't you let people in the chat just understand the law here? I'm not finding where it's illegal to detain American citizens. Maybe I'm ignorant on that. Okay, if a law enforcement official is raiding a home, a business, they're going to detain everyone, correct? Especially some that may be obstructing justice, some that are not compliant. You would expect them to detain these American citizens. But you know what's more, I guess, surprising to me? She puts up this number about 170 American citizens in Los Angeles have been detained by ICE. What about the 170 American citizens who have had crimes committed against them by illegal aliens? You don't want to talk about that. It's interesting. You don't hear about the robberies, the rapes, the fraud that goes on, right? You barely hear about the murders. I mean, the only reason why we hear about them is because local affiliates will talk about them, of course. And then Fox News will probably get a hold of it, or the president or conservatives will, and we'll amplify it. But from left-leaning sources, you're not going to hear about every time an American citizen is murdered at the hands of a criminal illegal alien. So the 170 American citizens, whether they were detained properly or not, that's not a concern of mine, okay? And the reason why it isn't, because one, these 170 American citizens were not deported. They were detained. They were not arrested, booked in the county jail, and were sitting there for a month. What are you talking about? It's fascinating how they frame all this. And here's another angle that they are choosing to take. So they're trying to use this poll that says that, you know, Americans don't support the National Guard. Well, I have an interesting response to that, but let's first play this clip.
It looks very different than what's going on during the day, but you still are not going to change the fact that majorities of Americans oppose deploying the National Guard and that Donald Trump is double digits underwater on immigration. And 60 Minutes had two interviews that I think are really important in this discussion. The first with NYU law professor and the co-editor of Just Security, Ryan Goodman, who talked about the hundreds of lawsuits filed against the government that they've sifted through. They found over 35 cases in which the judge specifically said what the government is providing is false information, including false sworn declarations time and again. And that's coming up in a lot of these rulings, that what the Trump administration is saying is, quote unquote, untethered to the facts. And then there was the DOJ whistleblower, the guy who came out, and I know you love talking about Andre Hernandez, the gay hairdresser that you don't care about so much. But this is the guy who was told by a superior that he had to falsify information about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He said he was told that he had to say he was an MS-13 gang member and terrorist. And he said it's not factually correct and I would not do it. And he ended up leaving the DOJ. So they are lying. They're lying in the suits that they're bringing. They're lying in front of these courts, and judges are pushing back against it. So what you're making it out to be is happening on the ground is not the reality, and these judges are saying so.
Okay, well, he's almost...
Okay.
All right. We know nobody likes to hear from Jessica, but she represents the exact talking point that you're going to hear from the left. Americans do not trust or do not support National Guard. It's going too far. You know what Americans do support above that? Is safer neighborhoods. That's the bottom line to it. And this is a fatal mistake politically, just in my personal opinion. people can disagree with the way President Trump is doing things. It doesn't mean they disagree with the overall merits of what he's doing. There's a difference there. When you're doing polling, the way you ask questions can always get you the result you're looking for. So let's just be honest about that. But more importantly, even if we follow her logic and say, yeah, you know what? Most people are uncomfortable with the National Guard. Fine. But are they uncomfortable with people getting deported? Are they uncomfortable with getting rapists and criminals and drug traffickers and human traffickers out of their neighborhood? No, they're not. They actually welcome that. So I think in the end, from a political point of view, when it's all said and done and people go to the ballot box, they're going to be thinking about their safe neighborhoods. The people in Washington, D.C., the people in Memphis, the people in Chicago. These people are starting to see firsthand what happens when the federal government, dedicates resources to cracking down on crime. They're not going to forget that. But that's what Democrats are hoping. They're hoping with all this pushback that people will be persuaded into believing that all of this is bad, none of this is good, and you should not vote Republican again. Well, I think the results will say otherwise. And just to continue to prove my point about how panicked they are and the measures that Democrats are going to because of illegal immigration, I want to talk about Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. So, as you know, when you allow everybody to cross the border, it costs money, right? And we know that Chicago, the city itself, has spent $2.1 billion on illegal immigration in 1 year. That was last year. So you know what was reported this morning? That the mayor wants to now charge a $21 head tax on corporations to make up the money that's been lost, make up the deficit, make up the debt that has been incurred because of illegal immigration. Take a listen to this story.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is proposing a $21 per employee monthly tax on large companies. It's designed to help close a nearly $1.2 billion budget shortfall for 2026. The head tax charges businesses a fixed fee for each employee, hoping to generate about $100 million in revenue. Business leaders and city officials are pushing back against the proposal, calling the move a, quote, job killer.
Okay. So why don't we take a look at this article that I pulled up from CBS News, because he did an interview with them this morning. I'll show you guys a clip after this. I just went to the part that's relevant, okay? The proposed employee head tax would apply to large businesses with more than 100 employees, levying a tax of $21 per employee per month. But the mayor said 97% of businesses in Chicago will not be impacted. Instead, it will apply to the 3% of the largest corporations doing business in the city. Okay. And then he goes on to say that the money is earmarked for mental and behavioral health care services for the Chicago Police Department, domestic violence survivor services, and investments in the Chicago violence intervention programs that Johnson said has led to the greatest decline of shootings and homicides in the city in more than 60 years. Okay. So he wants to, I guess, take the money and fund it into failed programs, but sure, go ahead. And then just a couple more quotes, and then we will obviously give you guys some common sense reaction to this. We're not going backwards when we make these investments. It's not unreasonable to ask the ultra rich to put more skin in the game. Yeah, see, the interesting thing about that concept is, rich people will happily continue to pay taxes. There's no question about it. I mean, if you do a poll on people who are billionaires, most of them are going to say, I don't mind paying more taxes. You know why they don't mind paying more taxes? Because they understand how the tax game works, okay? There are loopholes. There are ways to reduce your tax liability, especially personally. And so on that point of personal, most of these billionaires are not paying personal taxes, okay? It's the business that is paying it. And this is such a huge thing to remind people of, especially these progressive hacks that just believe, yeah, you are giving tax cuts to Elon Musk, like he's putting the money in his pocket or something. Okay. And by the way, Elon Musk has paid more taxes than anyone in history, for the record, personally, not business, personally. At any rate, when you think about this $21 per employee per month, what's going to end up happening in the worst case scenario is these businesses will leave because financially it just doesn't make any sense. And that's what these socialist, Marxist individuals don't understand. Is if you continue to punish people who are successful, they'll just move. We talked about it yesterday. That's why people or businesses, Silicon Valley, right, tech, moved out of California. They started to get punished by high inflation, high taxes, and high policies that are filled with red tape. And so it's a cause and effect. That's what they don't understand is they think, hey, let me try to take care of people or make up for my mistakes by punishing these corporations. I'm not understanding that. You decided to spend $2.1 billion, which is more than what you spend on policing in Chicago. And now that Chicago is in debt, you want to punish the businesses for that? It just doesn't make any sense. But that's how Democrats govern. Okay? That's just the way that it is. And me personally, I'd never have a business in Chicago, but that's just me. Okay? Now, here's what he had to say in his interview with CBS News earlier today. I think you guys will find this entertaining.
Yeah, well, the biggest concern is the fact that this administration has cut services to all of the vital institutions that we rely upon. He has cut services to education, healthcare, housing, transportation, good paying jobs. And so the Trump's cuts have caused tremendous harm across this country, and particularly here in Chicago. And so what my budget has put forward is protecting of all Chicagoans. And so, again, my responsibility is to make sure that every single Chicagoan is protected. And then I'm going to use every single tool that's available to me, whether it's the courts, litigation, executive orders, but it really requires everyone to come together to take our protest to the streets to demand that this government responds to working people in our interest.
Interesting. Okay. So we know who Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is. Lowest approval rating as a mayor in Chicago history. A guy that's bankrupted the city because of illegal immigration. A guy that claims to care about the black community and crime, but does nothing about it. In fact, has only emboldened it because of their soft on crime policies. And when the federal government, particularly President Trump, decides to do something about it by bringing in federal resources, not just the National Guard, we're talking FBI, DEA, Marshals, all of these government agencies that normally would never be involved in cracking down on crime in a city, what does he do? He pushes back as if it's Armageddon. So it continues to expose that Democrat Party is the party of racism. The Democrat Party is the party of socialism. They are the party of oppressing people. If you truly think about it, when you allow illegal immigration into the city of Chicago and the education system is impacted, the healthcare system is impacted, the crime is impacted, you are oppressing the people of Chicago because of your malpractice on the job. Isn't it interesting that these terms that they use, the allegations that they throw around, right? The attacks against President Trump is exactly what they do. They are the party of racism. They created a racist policy called DEI. They have been prejudiced and discriminated against other people because of their skin color and their gender. That's why men who have a backbone don't vote Democrat. Not today. Now, there are Democrats out there because they are the Democrats of the 90s, not the Democrats of the 2000s, if that makes sense. So that's who we're dealing with. And that's why I encourage people once again. Some people are not going to leave Chicago. That's their right. They're going to stay there. They believe they can fight it out, or they will, go down fighting. And they want to be a part of the, I guess people fighting back against the Chicago mayor. That's great for them. Not everybody's going to do that. And I think you got to make a decision. You're either going to be a person who's in charge or part of this resistance against these terrible policies being run by a Democrat mayor, or you're a person who's going to move. That's why most people, if you think about it, over the past 5 years, they moved. Minnesota is the second state who lost the most people. Why? Because they're retarded over there, just like California. The two states that have received the most people are Texas and Florida. Why is it? Because they're not as retarded, okay? Texas got some interesting things going on politically. They're not all innocent either, okay? They got some woke stuff as well. You don't have to go very far. Just look in Houston and Austin, all right? But the point is, with all of that, they are not as retarded as California and Minnesota. So I think you guys are getting my point. And especially Chicago. So I don't know who would want to live there, but that's my own personal opinion about it. All right. Let's see what you guys have to say about all this. I'm sure I got some people who probably are from Chicago watching. Let me know if I'm right. That'd be great to hear from you guys and my law enforcement people out there. Again, is it right that American citizens have been detained in the process of raids that are taking place to get the worst out of the worst out of this country? I already know the answer, but I'd like other people to see what you have to say in the comment section below. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Same with Florida, brother. We are working on it. Yeah. I just weeded out 8 sheriff deputies last night. I think you're probably talking about Texas. We got a lot of work to do still. Yeah, that's good. That means you're making progress. Yep. Oh my God. Read this comment, everybody, from CoinOp. I really need to get out of Illinois. I've never seen that before. That's good. That is really good. I grew up in the area. Chicago is a cancer in the state of Illinois. Yeah. I've tolerated 3 detainments in the last month. You were detained yourself? Is that what you're saying? You're just a funny guy. You are a funny guy. You're a funny guy. I love it. Let's see. What else we got? White liberals are the worst kind of liberals. Change my mind. Nope. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Yeah. Yeah, we talked about Portland last night, guys. The appeals court did rule 2-1 in favor of the president deploying National Guard troops. It's going to continue to happen. I mean, you don't have to be a constitutional attorney to see what he is doing is legal. Again, you may disagree with it because, it's something that we haven't seen before, but that doesn't mean it's illegal. And that's the thing is Democrats have blurred the lines and the definitions. Things they disagree with, they are now framing it as illegal. It's a violation of the Constitution. It's hate speech. It's racism. It's bigotry. That's what they do. But these are supposed to be individuals who are intelligent. They have all of the degrees from these high rated institutions and universities. A lot of these people have gone to Ivy League universities. I thought these were supposed to be smart individuals. Now, I think one of the biggest lessons in life, and this is why I always want to leave you guys with some mindset. The biggest lesson in life is understanding just because someone is a lawyer, just because someone is a doctor, just because someone is an athlete, doesn't mean they understand what's going on in our country. That's number one. Number two, it also doesn't mean they know everything. They may know everything as it pertains to their skill set, their job, but that doesn't mean they understand policy. That doesn't mean they understand, what's happening with these criminals and, the border and illegal immigration. It doesn't mean that at all. And I first learned that lesson when realizing there's a lot of lawyers who live paycheck to paycheck. There's a lot of doctors who live paycheck to paycheck. They have financial literacy issues. Just because they make a lot of money doesn't mean they understand how to manage money. I think the sooner people can become self-aware of how ignorant they can be in certain areas of their life, the better off they'll be because they'll start making better choices. Unfortunately, Democrat Party, generally speaking, that's not what they're doing. They have a lack of self-awareness. They don't understand how ignorant they are on a lot of these issues, or they just refuse to do the actual research and see the full picture. Some of these issues are not just black and white. They do deserve debate. They definitely deserve the courts to weigh in some ways. But that doesn't mean everything that the president does requires the courts to weigh in on, if that makes sense. A healthy constitutional republic, you would have the courts weigh in on certain issues. No question about it. But Democrats think everything the president is doing, we have to run to the courts, right? That's why you saw when the president did an AI video during the campaign, which he wasn't even the one that created it, by the way. But the point is, he did there's this AI video that was pretty much replacing the words of what Kamala Harris was saying. And she was basically saying in this AI video that she's woke. And it also had Gavin Newsom saying the same thing. And so the governor got mad and tried to pass a law in California that AI videos should be banned during campaigns. Well, what happened? The Supreme Court got rid of it, threw it out, because he can't do that. And that's what they're going to continue to do. They'll take a lot of stuff to court. It doesn't mean they will win. They may delay certain things, right? It may be another hurdle for the Trump administration to get over. But when it's all said and done, I would probably bet my money that at least 90% of all cases that are going to the Supreme Court will be ruled in favor of President Trump. Because I really have not seen a pattern of, well, he's breaking the Constitution. He's doing this unlawfully. No, he's just doing exactly what you want the president to do, what 77 million people voted for, which is results, taking action, not just talking. But that's what people like Gavin Newsom, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, LA Mayor Karen Bass, that's what they do best, is they talk. They don't act. And you can see that in their failed policies, especially financially. And isn't it interesting how Los Angeles, the state of California, Chicago, they're all underwater as far as their budget is concerned. Maybe they should focus more on that than the president, in my opinion. Okay. Let's see what my friends on YouTube have to say. Trump is more like an old school working class Democrat who actually cares about keeping jobs in America instead of outsourcing them to Mexico or Canada. We absolutely need tariffs. I'm with you. Folks, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you need Dave Ramsey in your life. Yeah. Let's see here. Surgeons make more money. Yes, they do. Yeah, let's see here. They take stuff to court because they don't understand the law. I know. If you guys are on Rumble, coming up in the next minute, or as of right now, is the quartering. Check out his show. It's starting now. We put the link in the chat for you guys. We're just going to go over a couple more minutes because I want to get to your guys' chat. I appreciate you joining us here. Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, bringing you common sense commentary for these uncommon times. Yeah, all of a sudden people care about this building. Exactly. They have nothing to say if it was a Democrat doing it. They would be applauding it. Yeah, can you believe it? Let's say it was Kamala Harris. Can you believe it? She is just remaking the White House in such a beautiful way. That's what they would say if she was doing it. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Common sense would tell you if other countries are putting tariffs on us, that it would be good for us to put tariffs on them. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. I think we're good with the chats. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming out today and watching us live. Again, if you can't follow us live every day, we do upload 20 to 25 minute updates on the YouTube channel there that you guys can watch on your own. I know some of you guys work every day and you're busy, so that's just an update for you there. But ultimately, guys, the bottom line to today's story is Democrats continue to cry about everything that the president is doing. And at the same time, the president is continuing to get results. The numbers scream louder than these Democrats who always have something to say. So do not forget that. All right, with that, I want to say thank you so much. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the show if you're on Rumble or YouTube. And finally, I just want to say God bless you and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.